We are getting major red flags and major warnings coming out of Biden's mouth himself. He is warning of this, that something big is coming, and we need to be getting prepared for it because the federal government is getting prepared for this, and they are getting prepared to make a major announcement that could alter our society, right? And they're warning of things being so bad that you might need to buy a bike. You might need to invest in a bike or a horse at this point. That's the direction that we are heading in, because we could see massive changes in our society of what they are warning of what is coming next. All right. So you need to be getting prepared. I'm serious. I thought of this today when I was reading all this stuff, that I need to get a bike. I literally need to get a bike. I live off grid full time in my RV with my family, and we are off the grid. We are on generators and water tanks, and I don't have a bike that I can bring with me because it's like I have limited space and a lot of my space is already occupied. But this is something I'm seriously thinking about investing in, is a bike, because we could see serious shortages, rationing, clamping down. These articles are insane, the stuff they're warning of. They're warning that travel restrictions could happen. All right. They're saying that fuel restrictions could happen. And Biden himself is warning that we could see situations like this, and we could see even lockdown type situations where, quote, non-essential travel is restricted. This is what the federal government is preparing for right now. And we could see this narrative being built over the past few years, but they are really pushing this. There's multiple mainstream news articles coming out right now that are pushing this and saying that this is going to happen very soon. And Biden is about to declare a federal emergency that could get the military involved. The military could be involved in this. We could be shutting down parts of our economy, kind of like what we've seen the past few years, but it could be even worse. All right, the restrictions could be even worse. So that's why I was joking around in the beginning of the video that we might need horses or bikes, because that might be the only way to get around without being stopped, without having your vehicle tracked and traced, and they know exactly where you're going. And with all this new technology, all these cameras everywhere, they have license plate readers mixed with the AI. They have everybody's cars mapped out exactly where they're going, and not to mention the facial recognition as well. So if you try to break these rules that are going to be implemented very soon, and we'll get to this article here, this is coming out of mainstream news. They are announcing this and saying that Biden is going to declare these emergencies very soon. All right. And we've seen situations like this before, but now mixing this with the AI that they are now implementing, the facial recognition, the license plate recognition, you are not going to be able to leave, because during these last lockdowns, I mean, the travel was relatively open. Okay, I was living in my RV then. That's when I started living in my RV. It was in 2020. And the travel restrictions were pretty minimal. I could travel to different state parks and check in. I could go to hotels if I needed to. It really wasn't that restrictive when it came to traveling. There were a ton of restrictions, don't get me wrong. But when it came to actually traveling state to state, it wasn't that big of a deal as an RVer, okay? There were some federal land shut down that definitely cut off some boondocking spots for us, but there were also a lot less people RVing as well. But we could see everything tracked and traced, and you not even be allowed to leave certain regions. Do you remember that on your phone, how before, if you got close to certain people, it would give you an alert on your phone saying, hey, this person was potentially exposed. Okay, you were getting alerts for that on your phone. Do you remember that? I remember that. You had to go turn off the alerts on your phone. It was geo tracking and geolocating people, and it was telling people if you got close to them. All right, so we could see that, but on a more extreme level, where you are not allowed to leave certain geo regions and locations, and we could see resources be extremely limited. And that's what they're warning of right now. All right, this is coming out of Politico, and mainstream news, they're warning that Biden could declare a national emergency, get the military involved, everything. So let's dive into this article here. All right, there's a couple different articles I want to hit. So you can see here, this is the first one coming out of Politico. Biden says he's, quote, practically declared a climate emergency, but he actually hasn't. All right, so they are working on this. They were asking him about it, and he was talking about it, that they are working on this climate emergency. And there's actually been these executive orders presented before that they have on the back burner, and they are working on them and tweaking on them to implement them. And here are some of the things coming out of Politico and mainstream news that they are worrying, or that they are warning of. You can see here, it could be limits on the production, shipment, use, or exports of fossil fuels, limits on sales on the use of combustion engine vehicles, limits on gas stoves, air conditioners, water heaters, and backup generators, and even on air travel by those who are deemed non-essential. All right, so we could have major travel restrictions, air travel restrictions, state travel restrictions. If you are in a different state with different license plate, that could be a problem if you don't have a legitimate excuse. Okay, here's another one. Biden says, quote, in practice, he's declared a national climate emergency. This is coming out of National Review, and they are also saying similar things, saying that he could activate the National Emergencies Act and give him power over manufacturing to manufacture clean energies, deploy renewables on military bases, block crude oil exports, and even suspend offshore drilling. Okay, so this would give the federal government a ton of power, and they're saying that this emergency will last bare minimum 1 year. And Biden himself is throwing this idea out there, saying that, hey, we might declare this. He's saying in practice, we've declared it. We're working on it. We're working on all these things behind the scene, and we are going to declare this emergency very soon. And there are a lot of prominent voices calling for this emergency to be declared. So what do you think of this emergency power being called for? And what do you think of these restrictions that they're saying? All right, they're saying that it could limit productions, shipments, use, or export of fossil fuels. All right, and that goes down to you as well. You could be limited on how much gas and oil you can buy as well individually. We could start seeing things like that. And you could also be limited on your geolocations, okay? And I've been warning of this, how this ties into all the blackout warnings we keep getting, okay? We keep getting these major blackout warnings. PJM Interconnect, the biggest grid operator in the U.S., issued an emergency grid warning just a couple weeks ago. We always get emergency grid warnings in Texas. We got one in California where they sent text messages to everyone in California to, quote, turn off your AC, turn off your refrigerator, turn off your main appliances right now, because they're drawing too much power and the grid is we're going to have blackouts on the grid, okay? So we're seeing this narrative being presented, and we are going to see this come to a conclusion where there's so many things going on. We see what's happening in Hawaii, okay? I don't want to dive too deep into that because it's a tragedy and you're really not supposed to get too much into that, but very devastating, very sad, incredibly sad, and very just insane circumstances, I'll say that, of what's going on over there. All these things are being presented, and the federal government is going to come out and say, look, we need to declare this federal emergency to deal with all of these problems that we are seeing, okay? And then that's going to be the new lockdown. That's going to be the new lockdown system. And now we have Biden himself warning of this, all right? So this is serious. This means that they are very close to actually declaring this. And the Politico article was saying that this will last at least 1 year, and then they will have to renew it every year after that. So we've seen situations like this before, all right? We've seen the country go into lockdown. We've seen businesses shut down and devastated. We've seen it overnight where you just can't get basic necessities. You can't get toilet paper, you can't get eggs, you can't get milk, you can't get these basic products that you need and that are always there, they could disappear overnight in these situations, especially if they come out federally and declare this emergency and say, look, we're going to have lockdowns. People really could start panic buying, and we could see a lot of empty shelves at your favorite place: Walmart, Aldi, Costco, Publix, Piggly Wiggly, all right? All the stuff, Safeway, all the stuff you could see empty shelves at overnight, all right? We've seen this overnight before, just a few years ago, where it's just like, I remember it. I remember specifically when this stuff happened a few years ago, and I remember going to Family Dollar and buying toilet paper, buying paper towels, and it already being extremely limited. This was like right when they declared it, all right when they came out federally and announced it, that they are going to try to have this 2-week thing, okay? And I remember right then, because they were saying, oh, they're gonna do it, and as soon as they announced it, the shelves were empty, all right? Because I went there. As soon as they actually announced it, I went there, and the shelves were empty at Family Dollar. I remember the Family Dollar I always go to, because everyone thought the same thing. People were like, oh crap, they're about to announce this, and then they did, and the stuff was gone. So get stocked up on all these essential things, all right? And I'm serious, get a bike. I'm serious. I had my fuel pump go out in my truck, all right? This was a couple months ago, and I had to walk back and forth miles. Thankfully, I was only 2.5 miles from my RV, but I still had to walk 2.5 miles back and forth a few times to get to my truck, all right? And to meet the tow truck driver, all the stuff. I was trying to work on it a little bit before I called him. And if I had a bike, I would have been set. It wouldn't have taken so long. It wouldn't have taken 45 minutes to walk those 2.5 miles. And I'm telling you, after that day, my legs were burning, all right? So, and that could be a way around these surveillance systems as well. I'm telling you, all the cars are tracked and traced. All the license plates are tracked and traced. So anytime you go into a city or major metropolitan area, these cameras, the police scanners, they're all tracking your license plates. And all these stores and a lot of even the local governments have face scanning AI technology as well. So they're going to know. They're going to know there's going to be no way around it. You're not going to be able to drive someone else's car. They're going to be able to track and trace you and make sure you stay where they want you to stay, all right? They want you to stay. And I'm kind of like a little bit of a nomad. I travel around a lot, all right? Every few months, I'm going to like a new spot, okay? I kind of stay in the same region, but I'm kind of a nomad, all right? I live in my RV, so I'm not even sure where they would want me to go. And there are a lot of people like that. There are millions of people like that that don't really live in one spot. And when all this stuff hit, there are millions of people a year that just kind of live on federal land, all right? They live on like BLM land or national forest land, and they move around. They'll go down south into Arizona in the winter, and they'll go up north in the summer, all right, when it's warmer up there. And there's a lot of these people where they don't really have anywhere to go. They don't have a physical address, and they were kind of screwed over during the last few years. All right, there's a major difficulty for a lot of people that are off grid and in their RV. All right, so we could see clampdowns on stuff like that too, and we could also see clampdowns on how much food you're eating. Okay, how much food you're eating, that's going to be tracked and traced as well. They keep talking about oil and fuel and gasoline, all right, could potentially be rationed, but we could also see food rationing as well, and especially foods that they consider non-essential, all right? We're going to start seeing this word coming back. It's already coming back in multiple mainstream news articles. They're pushing this idea as there's certain travel that's non-essential. That's how I see my family, is by plane, all right? That's my family flies out here and sees me, all right? So that's how I see my family most of the time. Sometimes I'll travel down there, but they're just so far away. It makes sense for them to just fly out here, and it's beautiful out here. And that could be considered non-essential travel, right? It said specifically in that article, air travel could be considered non-essential. All right, so start getting prepared now. Start thinking of what you would do if you had to stay. Could you stay at your home for 2 weeks, not be able to leave, right? We might see more like stay at home orders, things like that, related to this whole emergency as well. We could see very similar situations, but a lot worse, right? That could have been phase 1, and now we could see phase 2 of these lockdowns. So get out the cities as well, and even little things like turn off your phone location, right? That's something I always try to do. Turn off my phone location. If I'm not using any apps where I need to do that, all right, then turn it off. Turn off your phone location. Don't bring your phone with you everywhere you go, all right? Allow yourself to get off the grid, get off this surveillance grid, because even your phone, all right, it's tracking, tracing. It knows exactly, it knows like when you're picking it up and when you're tilting it certain ways, what degree you're tilting it, all these different things. If you're accelerating in your car, if you're turning, all right, all these things when you're walking, it knows what you're doing. It's tracking and tracing every single thing you're doing. And you don't want to be a part of that. You want to opt out of that. And that's going to be used to clamp down with these emergency lockdowns that the federal government is now announcing and throwing this idea out here, saying that we're going to do this very soon and we are working on this. So let me know down below what you think of this. All right, this is big news. You need to be getting prepared. And do you live in an area where you could be clamped down? All right, where you could hunker down for a few weeks? Could you stay in this area and have resources to survive? Or is this area a food desert? Is everything in this area imported and it's going to be controlled by restrictions? So make sure you're getting prepared. Make sure you are stocked up on all your tanks, fuel, water, food, supplies. Get a generator, get a solar generator, get a massive fuel tank, get a propane tank, get a propane conversion for your generator. All these things are going to be critical. Get them filled up because they are going to be rationing these resources. That's the key, is that you can't use these resources and they need to be rationed. That's the conclusion of this all. And that's what they're already warning of with gas. All right. And if your gas is being limited, then your travel is being restricted. All right. And if your travel is being restricted, then you can bet your food and your purchases will be restricted as well. All right. This system is being put in place right in front of us and they are announcing it. All right. So get prepared for something big to happen. And please hit it up for me down there. I really appreciate that. It helps to get more people prepared and get on the prepper wave. Everyone should be a prepper. All right. Everyone should be prepared for an emergency. All right. Even if it's just the power going out for 12 hours, you need to have a generator to keep your food in the refrigerator good. All right. Just even if it's something as simple like that, get on this prepper wave, get your prepper pantry building and get stocked up. And please hit it up for me down there. I really appreciate that. And I hope you have a big old blessed day.